All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Balancing You podcast. I am your host, Maddie, and we are now on episode 3. So exciting. I think I have a super interesting topic for you guys today, and it's basically going to be how my education helps align my career and how I'm going to move forward with my career once completing my bachelor's degree in May. So, just to kind of touch on the subject of my college education. When I first applied for college, I wanted to be a business management or a business administration major. I had no plans and no thought of what I wanted to do or what I was going to do or anything like that. I kind of just knew I wanted to go to college and I knew that I wanted a degree, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I always thought it was something so grand to accomplish, but I literally had no plan. And my family was super supportive and being like, you're going to find what you love to do and what you like to do along the way. But it was super hard for me to understand, like, I had to trust the process. So, starting when I applied for college, obviously, like I said, no plan, but I really just wanted to figure myself out. And so once I was accepted to UTSA, I moved to San Antonio from Houston and I started to go to UTSA. So I started in August of 2020, which was a few months after COVID started, obviously in March of 2020, and that took me for a whirlwind, let me tell you. So starting college during COVID was so I don't even know how to explain it. It was such an awkward time in life. No one really knew how to handle COVID. No one really knew what life was going to look like in the next couple of months. We were kind of just flying by the seam of our pants. Literally, we were literally that's how we were living. That's it. So, moved up here and I was starting my freshman year, kind of just getting situated with what was going on, and I didn't know what that was going to look like. So, when I began to look at my classes and everything, obviously, we couldn't have classes in person, which was super, super tough and weird. I was obviously used to high school, which was in person, but my last, 6 months of high school was online, and we didn't really have work because it was COVID, and we were all figuring out what life was going to look like to begin with. And so that was kind of an awkward time. But um moving on to when I started my classes, everything was online. Obviously, I mean, you were just taking notes, you were taking your exams, your quizzes, having Zooms. I mean, that was the new college. You were learning everything that you were going to learn in college on Zoom or on a pre-recorded lecture, and everything was digital. And so that was kind of an adjustment, which was tough, I would say, for sure. Obviously, with someone who likes to be hands-on in their learning, it's definitely tough. And so I was able to really figure out that it wasn't as hard as it seemed. I just was getting out of my comfort zone. And so that's exactly where it put me. Somewhere that I wasn't comfortable, but I was definitely getting the groove of it and understanding that I think I learn best online. And I also felt like I was trying to fill fill a certain expectation of college, if that makes sense. So, like, when you hear stories about people going to college, it's, oh, like, your freshman year's your party year, you're gonna meet all these friends and blah blah blah. And when I started college, like, I didn't know anyone, and I mean, obviously I was in a foreign town 3 hours away from everything that I've known my entire life. All of my friends, my family, everything was so weird and so new. And so I kind of had to find my way through that. Um, and so for that time being, in the beginning of my classes, in the beginning of my freshman semester, it was hard for me and obviously everyone else who was starting at that time to make friends and really know what you were going to do and what the future was going to look like. And so I was able to make a few friends, but that was just because we had class group me's or we found each other on social media. And the campus was open, but not for courses. And so we could go to the library and get things done. and we could go to the rec center to work out, but you weren't sitting in a classroom setting, so you were not spending your time with people. And it was so awkward. And so I did end up meeting a few friends my freshman year, and we were able to hang out and, do study, sessions and that kind of thing. But it was not your regular, I felt like it was like different friendships were made during COVID, if that makes sense. Like you were adjusting to a new life where masks were required. You couldn't really go anywhere without putting on hand sanitizer. It was just so weird. And so I was able to go to the library with my friends and like study that way, but it wasn't something that I enjoyed just because it was so new. And so I learned that through my courses my freshman semester, I really had to figure out what worked for me. And so at the time I didn't have a job. I wanted to strictly focus on school my freshman year, at the least, to really understand what college was going to look like for me, because obviously we didn't know that the COVID regulations were going to lift. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And so doing so, I started making my weekly list that I talked about last week, in episode 2, where weekly lists are literally my holy grail. And I still do that to this day. It's literally so helpful, and it's so satisfying to cross those things off the list. I'm telling you, you would never imagine that crossing something off on a list physically would bring you so much joy. But me, oh, honey, that is literally what. If I wake up in the morning and I'm able to get something done, obviously before work now, that makes my day, because I know that I've done something where I can literally just feel so good about it because it's done. And so sometimes, don't tell anyone, but sometimes I add things to my list that I know I've already done just to cross them off. My secret better be safe with you, because that's embarrassing. But anyways, dealing with that, I felt like my weekly lists were going to save me. And so that's what I did. I was always taking 5 classes per semester. I think one semester I took 4, but I just felt like I didn't have I wasn't doing anything. I didn't work, and so I knew that I could take more classes than that. And so fast forward to either my first semester of my sophomore year or the end of my second semester of freshman year, I applied for a seasonal job at James Avery, the jewelry store. And I loved it. I have always grown up in a James Avery household, if that makes sense. Like my mom, my grandma, like everyone I knew loved James Avery. And obviously I wanted to work there. And hello, the discount? Honey, 30%? Yeah, give me that. So that's what I did. I applied for the seasonal position at James Avery, and I ended up getting that. And I worked there for about 5 months. And it was not tough, to be honest with you. It wasn't tough to balance both of those, because obviously my weekly list, and then also it was James Avery. So the work that I was doing wasn't tough, right? I'm selling jewelry. I'm getting to talk about things that I love. But at the end of my, seasonal time with James Avery, I realized what I don't know. I realized that that wasn't something that I obviously was going to do with my degree, right? I wasn't going to stay with James Avery just for the fun of it, because, I mean, yeah, I was getting paid, but like, when you think about it, you're not getting paid enough to really pay your bills and do all of this. And so I really had to consider, like, what was it for me? Also, not to mention, an honorable mention at that, the management at the store that I worked at was, oh God, different, to say the least, okay? I wouldn't call myself social, but I try my best. And at work, obviously, you make friends, and I am still friends with some people that I worked at that James Avery store with to this day, and we hang out. But I would say that the management really sabotaged my time there. I felt like I was always getting picked on for the smallest things. So, like, even having your Apple Watch on, if you're like checking the time or what, if you even look like you're doing something on your Apple Watch, because we weren't allowed to have our phones on the sales floor, you were gonna, have a private conversation with one of the managers, and they were kind of going to reprimand you for doing that. And so I just felt like I was always getting picked on because I wasn't the only one who wore an Apple Watch. And so it was just, I don't know, wasn't really my thing. But to say the least, I learned a lot about retail when I worked there. And it wasn't my first retail job, because I did have a job in Houston before I started college, which I only worked there for about 8 months because obviously I was moving for college. But it was a different kind of retail, right? So it's jewelry. My other retail job was at Office Depot. That threw me for a whirlwind as well, but also it was just like my high school job and it was chill, it was fun. The workers were great, the managers were great. I really had a good time, but I knew that I wasn't going to pursue that for my career and I was going to move for college and I really didn't want to transfer to another Office Depot just, while I was in college. So, moving on to James Avery, the management I felt like kind of sabotaged my experience there, but I really learned a lot about retail and like what draws people in and what attracts customers. And so that was really cool and I obviously used the discount for my family. But leading into after my seasonal position ended, it was I wouldn't say it was a tough time looking for jobs, but I just felt like I had no idea what I wanted to do and where I was going to go, and how I was going to make money, but also like making money doing something I like, number one. Number two, maybe something that I could actually build a career on. And so I decided to apply to HEB to be a personal shopper in their curbside department just for the time being. It was a part-time position. I also took the part-time position at a store that was 20 minutes away from the UTSA campus, the main campus. I don't know why, but I just did. And so I started that job and obviously you learn quick. You are doing, what you're told. It wasn't a tough job. The money was pretty good for the part-time position. So I definitely recommend if anybody's looking for a part-time job. But I never knew that my leap of faith, I'd say, to become a curbside personal shopper at HEB would lead into the position I am now and building my career with an amazing company just like HEB. And so basically what happened was I made so many friends at that store. It was insane and I really had a good time. My managers were great. I really loved my time being a part-time partner, but I just felt like I wasn't filling my cup. Like I was a personal shopper for I think 8 months and I just felt like I was so stagnant in my position and I felt like I wanted to do more and I could do more. And my managers realized that I was able to do more and I was showcasing those capabilities of leadership, but I really had to understand what I wanted to do. And so I saw a posting for a specialist position at my store in my department to obviously become a curbside specialist. And so what that entails is really making sure that they're able to run the department when the managers are not there or being able to take care of customers, just being able to be the leader in the department when the managers can't physically be there, right? Just being able to problem solve, being able to have that A+ customer service and etc. And so I applied for that. It was a part-time position, but I was still interested because I knew that curbside was something that I was intrigued in. And so that's what I did. I applied for that and I ended up getting the specialist position, but alongside that, they also offered me a full-time specialist position. And so that I was extremely grateful for. And I was super excited to see what that was going to bring to the table as far as my career. And moving forward with my education as well. And so during this time, obviously, I'm still going through the motions at UTSA. I do have online classes I had online and in-person classes at that time. And so I was definitely learning balance and time management at that point, but I was able to handle it and it wasn't too bad. I was taking 5 classes at the time, I think. And so I became a full-time curbside specialist and I really learned everything in and out of curbside. I learned everything at that store about HEB curbside, and it was just amazing to see what really goes into a retail business as big as HEB. And so I just found myself always telling stories about how much fun I was having at work or the people I met at work or what I was able to do or what I was doing for other people such as the customers, even the partners there as well. And so it was just super exciting to see that I really found something that I was passionate about and I didn't think that it was going to be that at first. So fast forward, I was able to get into an internship that I got college credit for with HEB, and they put me in a different department for 3 months at a different store. I met different store leaders. I met company leaders. It was just amazing. That internship really changed my whole perspective on the company for the better, obviously. So I was able to do that. So I worked at that specific store for a year and a half. When I did my internship, I worked there for 3 months, and then I got into wanting to become a curbside manager. Now, obviously, I was a little bit scared because I didn't know how that was going to work, but I definitely knew that I wanted to apply. And so how it works is you apply for their School of Retail Management at HEB, and that's what I did. Right out of the internship, I applied for the School of Retail Management, and it's basically the management program for HEB, and you can take it as many times as you'd like, but obviously once per department, if that makes sense. So obviously, if I wanted to be a bakery manager, then I would apply for the School of Retail Management for bakery, but I wanted to do curbside, and so I applied for the School of Retail Management for curbside, and I ended up getting in, and so that was also a blessing as well. When I started the management program, I was super nervous because I didn't know how school was going to look like. Obviously, it panned out where I was able to start the management program in summer, so I didn't have classes at the time, which was helpful. I went through that and just really learned the ins and outs of being a manager for such a large retail company. I was able to meet a lot of company leaders as well. I also met the CEO of HEB, Howard Butt himself, during the management program, and so that was insane. Um, but I was super excited, and I really learned a lot about myself and my leadership style during that program, and I think that specific 6-month time frame during my internship, learning a lot about myself and my leadership style again, and then going through the 3 months of the management program really shaped where I am today and obviously where I'm going to go. So I am now a senior in college. My last semester, I'll graduate in May. So we're almost there, 3 more months. I am now taking 7 classes for this semester and also balancing being a full-time assistant department manager of an HEB curbside. And it's really crazy. I'm at my 5th store, just working with the company for 2.5 years. In August, it'll be 3. But I am at my 5th store now working for HEB, and it has just been so crazy to be able to meet all different partners from all around the world, as well as all different leaders, and learning their leadership styles and what I think works for me and what I think doesn't work for me. And kind of where I see myself being a leader as far as how I want to lead others and how I want to develop and grow others. So now, as I'm taking all of these courses in school, I am taking obviously this podcasting course, which has been super helpful to just kind of get me out of my comfort zone and talk about things. But I'm also taking principles of marketing and organizational communication. And I also took international communication, which all of those communication classes have really helped me aligned how I want to be a leader. Like I said, so that has really, really shaped me into the leader that I am today. And basically, what I wanted to point out was whenever you're finding your career and finding what motivates you and what you're passionate about during your pursuit of education, it's tough and it's going to be scary and it's going to be a box of unknowns. Literally, I feel like every day I'm opening up something that I have no idea what is going to happen or what's going to be the outcome of. But I obviously am nervous in the beginning, but it's just so exciting to think that something so small that I thought wasn't going to affect my life really changed my life for the better. So here I am, 22 years old, a curbside manager at HEB, and I don't even have my degree yet. And so after this, I feel like taking all of my communication classes at UTSA has really shown me that I want to be a leader in the company. And so I'm able to obviously apply for the leadership program at HEB. But I also felt like when I was finding who I was as a leader and as a manager, I realized that I really want to experience a lot more things in the store with the customers and the partners before I take that next step to become a leader. Because yes, I'm a department leader, but a store leader is completely different, and it's scary to think that I can jump from one to the other in, a short 6-month time frame, right? And so it's I literally all I can explain it I literally can explain it like it's scary. It is scary. And it trips me up, obviously, every time I talk about it because it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't understand what goes into the work. But really, guys, what I want to point out is that things are going to be tough whenever you're looking for your career during your education. Things are going to be scary. You're going to be looking at a bunch of unknown blank pieces of paper, to give you an analogy there. But trusting the process and really understanding what works for you and really taking the time to balance yourself and your schedule as far as work and school is where you want to be. It's going to take you where you want to be. It's going to lead you to the type of career you want to have outside of whenever you graduate, right? When you become a college graduate, it's game time. It's time to get serious. You want to figure out your career. You want to figure out what's going to work for you in life, how you're going to provide for yourself and your future family and maybe your family now. Really figuring out what works best for you. Don't be afraid of the unknown. I would say that's my biggest piece of advice in this episode is do not be afraid of the unknown because you'll only psych yourself out. And I promise you, I was so nervous and so scared in all of these store moves that I made during my early career with HEB. I just felt like I was starting over every single time. And truly and honestly, you do. But the great thing about that is learning how others, you learning how to tailor yourself to others. I feel like as a leader, learning how to tailor your leadership style, learning how to tailor your conversations, even learning how to tailor the way you talk to leaders at that, the way you present yourself, obviously your wardrobe change as you become higher up in the company. It is so scary. It really is. And to this day, I sometimes walk into work and I'm like, I'm literally having imposter syndrome. Like, am I really a manager? Like, it's just crazy to me. And so I always find myself saying that I have imposter syndrome because sometimes I feel like, do I belong here? Do I really have the power to make business decisions for a multi-billion-dollar company? I do. And it's really crazy. And you can too. That's my thing. Do not be afraid of the unknown. Once again, do not. Because you don't want to psych yourself out and block your blessings from what your life is going to lead into after graduation. And so looking for your career during your education is nerve-wracking, but I think it's the best time to do it. Looking for what really motivates you to be a leader and to be an owner of whatever you like to do, that is going to be the path that you want to take. I know it's going to be difficult balancing it, but obviously I'm here. I'm alive in the flesh again. Balancing you. Okay, balancing you in general. As far as your education, you're almost done. Like, I'm almost done. I want to be done. I think that knowing where you're going to go after graduation is very easing to the mind, right? And so knowing that I have a secure job, obviously nothing is promised, but having a secure job with one of the greatest companies in Texas has really honestly helped me ease my mind to think, okay, after I graduate, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands, which is going to be kind of weird, but I think that it really has helped me not become so nervous in the end. So if you take anything from episode 3, I just want to say, do not be afraid of the unknown. You dive in head first. And like I said, again, you fail forward. Do not be afraid to fail forward because that is the way you're going to learn, whether that be in school, whether that be in your career. Fail forward. It is okay to fail because you get back up and you try again. Obviously, people are going to know that you mess up. That's fine. But I bet you 110% they're going to remember all of the greater things that you did. If you get back up from your mistake, you correct it, and you learn from it. That's it. So I hope you guys really enjoyed episode 3. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns on this episode. Be sure to join my email thread, and I will see you guys next week for episode 4. Bye.